three,
All right.
4.
Let me start streaming, Steve.
You got it.
Okay. All right, you're good.
Hi, everybody. It's Tuesday, February 2nd, 2021. It is 6:02. Budget workshop. Michelle, can we do, what's open session? Can we do roll call?
Yes. Mr. Lawton,
Here.
Mr. Cologne,
Here.
Mr. Kutu,
Here.
Mrs. Saint Amand,
Here.
Mr. DiMartino.
Here.
I am going to defer to Karen for the budget workshop. It's all yours, Karen.
Alrighty, great. Thanks, Steve. Good evening, everyone. As Chairman Lawton just announced, tonight is our the school committee public budget workshop as required. So tonight is the school committee's opportunity to Joe Spagna will present a summary of the budget and for anybody to ask questions. And that's the sole purpose of tonight. So I'll start with a brief statement. Members of the school committee and the West Warwick school community, thank you for taking the time to be here tonight for our West Warwick School Committee budget workshop. This evening, we are pleased to present the FY22 budget for the school department. After months of careful consideration, planning, and with the same commitment to our students, families, and consideration of the town's fiscal stability, I'm happy to report that the school department presents the balanced budget which supports students, families, and staff. As discussed at each school committee meeting, since March of last year, we have been living in uncertain times due to COVID-19. The pandemic has impacted all of our lives personally and professionally, and the school department is no exception. We would not have been able to anticipate this pandemic, nor the issues related to reopening schools in a healthy and safe manner, providing academic programming and related services to our students, and the ability to staff 3 models of instruction delivery. Also, as reported monthly, the school department, in conjunction with both unions, has collaborated and rallied to provide the best possible experience and support to our students and families that we can possibly under these circumstances and parameters of living with the public health crisis. We have been fortunate in that the federal government has provided COVID relief funds, which have helped support the work we've needed to do this year to support the students. Included, but not limited to this work, includes facilities, reworking ventilation systems, air filtration systems, the addition of staff to support 3 models of instruction, PPE, supporting technology needs, as well as social emotional supports, only to name a few. I would like to acknowledge Joe Spagna's efforts around the management of these funds, along with our local budget and federal funds. This has not been an easy system to manage, as the additional COVID funds have stringent restrictions that needs constant monitoring and balancing with our local budget. We find ourselves in a similar situation as we did last spring when we presented our FY21 budget. At that time, COVID was new and we were uncertain about what the upcoming year, this current year, would bring, what our budgetary needs would be, and what our state aid was going to be. In order to balance the budget last year, we needed to lay off significant numbers of staff based on the anticipation of a significant reduction in our state aid. What is similar to last year right now is the same uncertainty about what next year will bring. We don't know yet if we'll be back full in person. We hope that's going to be the case. Or will we need to continue with 3 models of instructions that we are engaged in now? And we all know it will continue on the course of the vaccination program and how the virus reacts. We will be prepared for every scenario that we find ourselves in. Having been through this year, we continue to develop and grow our models of instruction. We'll be better prepared for next year and whatever may come our way. I would like to thank all members of our school community for their resilience during this year. This has not been easy, and without every single person, their tenacity and willingness to show up every day, we would be in a much worse place. I would also like to extend the school department's sincere gratitude to both unions, the West Warwick Teachers Alliance and Council 94, for their partnership and flexibility. Without that, we would not have had the latitude to service our students and families as we are now. And I bow my head to our administrative team as well. Their continuous leadership and fortitude has held the district together. And with that, I'll turn the mic over to Joe Spagna to give us a summary of the budget.
Good evening, everyone. Hope everybody's doing okay. I got a little statement here I'll read. I'm going to be throwing out a lot of numbers, so if there's any questions, by all means, interrupt me, and I can answer the best of my ability. The budget before you summarizes the proposed 5-year education needs for fiscal year 22 through fiscal year 26. The FY22 budget totals $64,130,420. This is an increase of approximately 6% or $3.9 million over the FY21 amended budget. If you recall, in fiscal 21, our state aid was cut over $1.9 million due to COVID-19, forcing us to make deep cuts in many areas in order to present a balanced budget. This budget reinstates those cuts and also includes increased costs associated to each line. More specifically, you'll see in salary and benefits. We've been very fortunate to be able to work collaboratively with a town council that sees the value of a strong education. Last year, the town helped to close our funding gap by increasing local appropriation by $800,000. The budget before you does include another moderate increase in a local appropriation, which I'll explain as we move forward. I'd like to review some of the major items that impacted the creation of the budget. You'll note that that salaries have increased mainly for the following reasons. The regular salary line increased approximately $2.7 million or 8.6%. Due to staff movement and step and longevity, wage increases, and the return of laid-off staff due to COVID-19. The regular salary lines also include a reduction of $300,000 for projected staff attrition or employee turnover. A portion of overtime and professional development was restored in FY22, resulting in an approximate increase of $152,000. The common planning time stipend was eliminated, resulting in a reduction of approximately $69,000. All other salary-related lines increased approximately $18,500 or 0.06%. The net effect of all these changes resulted in an increase of 8.3% in our salary expenses. You'll also note that our fringe benefits have also increased. Medical expense increased approximately $540,000 due to enrollments and a 5% increase in the working rate. Certified pension increased approximately $652,000 or 13% due to increased wages and staff, and assumed 0.42% increase in rate, as well as impacting from the return staff from laid off status due to COVID-19. Municipal pension increased approximately $34,000 or 2% based on the actuarial valuation provided by NIHART Actuary and Employee Benefits. OPEB or other post-employment benefits increased $28,000 or 10% based on a valuation by that same company. Unemployment costs decreased approximately $115,000 due to the expectation of all staff returning to in-person teaching the entire year. The net effect of these changes resulted in an 8.5% increase in fringe benefit expenses. A few other areas that had an impact on this budget, transportation contractors and state transportation increased approximately 3% due to our contractual obligation to them. Charter and vocational school tuitions increased approximately $30,000 and $156,000 respectively. The budget is based on enrollments at the time of the preparation of this budget, at the time of preparation. So those, as I always say every year, the enrollments go up and down. They've changed even from when I created this budget. Some have gone up, some have gone down. So that's kind of a flowing number. Tuitions to private sources or special education out of district placements is projected to decrease approximately $550,000 due to enrollment projections at the time the budget was prepared. Supplies decreased approximately $200,000, 16%. The district's been proactive in implementing energy conservation. This is finally starting to show in our overall use of energy, which has resulted in a 50% reduction into our wind turbine debt service allocation. saving over $150,000 in electrical supply costs this year in fiscal 2022. Also, due to grants provided for COVID-19 relief, we've been able to prepare in advance for next year's cleaning and disinfecting supplies, resulting in a savings of approximately $23,000 in custodial supplies. Property increased approximately $100,000 due to the reinstatement of the building improvement line, which was cut in FY21 due to the reduction in state aid. As for revenue, the school district receives its primary revenue from two sources: state education aid and the town of West Warwick as a local appropriation. Medicaid reimbursements as well as miscellaneous revenue are additional other sources of revenue. It's the priority of the district to continue to participate in the improvement of the town's fiscal health while not impeding the education of our children. The anticipated student needs for FY22 does not allow the school department to return to level funding. RIDE's requested state aid dated November 20th, 2020 does show an increase over the FY21 amount. The district, like the town, is recovering from the added costs associated to COVID-19 pandemic. The average increase originally stated in the 5-year plan is $646,936. In our effort to help speed the town's economic recovery for pandemic costs, we've applied the $150,000 savings from our wind turbine debt service to the town appropriation. With this savings, we have reduced our request of appropriation to an increase of only $496,936. This increase in appropriation, along with the anticipated increase in state aid, will allow the district to meet the future needs of our children. In conclusion, after careful consideration of the district's needs while staying within projected revenues as well as ongoing 5-year plan, this budget will support the district both educationally and programmatically. That's all I had for a statement for information, but I'd be happy to try to answer any questions if anybody has any.
I just have a quick question, Joe. Can you hear me?
Yes, yep.
The bottom line is, so what is the increase from last year's budget? Just a percentage.
It is a
lot of numbers flying around.
It's 6% increase. It's about $3.9 million over the FY21 amended budget.
Okay.
And that portion is attributed in part to the salaries of the people that we had to bring back, right, Joe?
That's correct.
Yep.
Okay.
Right.
So I just have 2 quick points I'd like to throw out and just find out. I mean, the fact that we gave the 150 back to the town is terrific, and I'm very thankful that we're in a position where we could do that. I mean, have you ever, aside from us doing it as often as we do, it's something that doesn't really happen in most places. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay.
Right.
And
You make just to add to that, Louis, you make a really good point about that. That usually doesn't happen where school departments agree to give back or agree to less than their original anticipated request. And the reason that we feel like that's the right thing to do is, as Joe mentioned in his comments, we can't move forward with level funding from the town anymore. So moving forward, we are going to have an annual appropriation request. So out of fairness, we want to be as reasonable about that as we can be. So if there was,
Sure.
like in this case, there was a savings from the energy, and again, to Joe's point, because of the efforts in the school department for conservation, we just felt like it was the right thing to do, because moving forward, we can't be level funded anymore. So when we can, we want to be able to help out.
well, that was part of where I was going with it, because I mean, I just don't want to get, I mean, not that I want to get into the habit, right? Because I mean, it's a good thing to be able to do for the overall benefit of the town, but I just want to be clear that, like, just because we can make it work 1 year with a little less for one particular reason, it's not that it's going to always be that case. I just don't want to plant a bad seed, you know?
No, and you make a really good point. And I think that is the point, that moving forward, we won't be able to be level funded. So we want to play fair. We want to continue, just like we always have, we want to continue to play fair. I mean, I'm making up a number. Who knows? Next year, we might need to double that, you know?
Yeah.
So just to be fair.
But at least while we have it, we don't have to be piggish about it, and we can, share with the town, and that reduces everyone's burden a bit.
Right.
So, and the other question I have, Joe, sorry, is so it seems that we have, done like maybe like 29,000 looks like based on COVID for potential next year's savings, because we were able to use some of the pandemic money for cleaning products and stuff like that. I don't know how much of the pandemic money we have left, but I'm sure there's enough. But should we do like 2, 3 years, 4 years worth of cleaning if we're only allowed to use it for certain things?
Well, we have two problems there. First of all, access to the product. Some of that stuff is back ordered. We're still waiting on some supplies to come in. And secondly is storage. We're at a point where we don't know where to put it now that we have it. So we've got a good start on next year, but and correct me if I'm wrong, if Kenny's on, we don't have a place to keep all these supplies. So
Right.
we can't buy it. And then some of the stuff does have a life expectancy too. So you can't buy certain cleaners that'll expire in a year and can carry them over for 2. You can only get a year's worth.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, and on things that I agree with, things that might have a shelf life, but with other things, I mean, I don't know how long it takes for bleach to go bad, but I mean, on stuff like that, if we had to rent a storage space, it would still save us the money because it's money that we're not going to be able to use somewhere else. So, I mean, if we had to rent the storage space for $100 a month for 2 years, it's $2,400, and we get $24,000 worth of product. So, if there's a potential to do that, then, I mean, Kenny would know best, and I trust Kenny's opinion, but I just would like, if there's a way to double, triple stack it, because I don't know. I mean, I don't know what happens to the money if we don't use it. Is that something that gets taken back?
Yeah, we would, whatever we don't use, like for the CRF money that we just ended in December, we've used all but probably about 45,000 of that, which is pretty good. We've used over about $1 million.
Okay.
We may have to give that back. I haven't heard yet from the state how we handle that. And then the 1.1 million of the ESSER funds, whatever, that's reimbursement based. We're going to have to ask, we can only request for what we've expended.
Of course. Okay.
Use it or lose it.
Okay.
I have one question. I'm wondering the reason for eliminating the common planning time stipend. So I think common planning time is a very important element of professional development for our staff, for our teachers in particular.
Joe, actually, what we did is we eliminated the common planning time as a stipend, and we've changed the longevity. I believe it's in the longevity. We've increased that by $100 per individual. So there is this overall savings because more people are getting the stipend and others may not see the benefit of this longevity until they hit a certain threshold in years. So they are still being compensated for that. The timing it is happening. It's just paid in a different manner.
Okay, thanks, Joe.
Yep. So
Yeah,
to that
just
point,
to reassure you, common planning time is still happening.
Good.
It was just the budget
Yeah,
lines.
that was my concern, that it wasn't going to happen, but
No,
if
I
it's still
agree
going to
with
happen,
you.
I'm good. Good.
Yeah, very
but
important.
to that point, Joe, with respect to what Mr. DiMartino just said, the fact that it's not a stipend, the fact that it's added in terms of longevity, does that affect the long-term impact of like retirement and those types of things that's gonna adversely affect us down the road?
It'll affect the payout through the state retirement for certified employees. It doesn't really affect us in retirement as it stands, unless our rates were to skyrocket astronomically from the state. But $100 isn't going to really do that big of an impact.
Okay. All right, cool. I wasn't sure how often $100 was. I'm sorry. Wasn't sure.
No,
if it was
it's just a one-time payment each year, depending on the step
Okay.
on what level they're at in their longevity.
Okay, I just wasn't sure if it was like $100, per pay period or a month. And
Oh,
then,
no, in total.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Joe, my question is about the out of district and special education. Was that 500,000 a net savings, or and so that included any revenue we would receive from students coming from out of districts to our district?
That's the 500,000 for special education that we pay out to our students being placed in out of district placements. The enrollment at the time I did this budget was down. We weren't sending as many kids out. Now that's gone up over the past, couple of months since I prepared the budget, but again, we're going to see ups and downs and ebbs and flows in that as we go forward.
And is it a revenue line for the students that come from out of districts?
Yes, yes,
Did
it
you
is.
give us a number on that?
Sure. Let me pull it open real quick.
I might have missed it. My apologies.
That's okay. Tuition from other districts is estimated to be $232,609. And that's based on some enrollment, and I anticipated about 3 new students for next year.
Okay,
We
thank
seem
you.
to be increasing on an average of 2 to 3 students a year, attending our district from other districts.
Excellent. Thank you.
Joe, just building onto that, where do we send the out-of-district special ed students?
Of various locations.
Yeah,
Let me look at my spreadsheet.
There's different facilities, schools.
I can give you an idea.
Yeah,
if I
so
can
so
find
is
it.
the reduction in response to us being able to offer services for kids that would normally be placed outside of the district?
Largely, yep, largely, Joe, and some of it is, kids graduate, so sometimes, there may be a student in and out of district placement that graduates.
Yep.
But as always, we, continue to develop our in-district programs.
Good, okay.
So that's able to support.
Because I know the out-of-district placements can be extremely expensive.
Very expensive.
Absolutely.
And it is what the kids need, so if we can offer those services so that we don't need to send them to an out-of-district
Exactly.
placement, that's a real positive move.
And that's a hats off to Jess Perry, our director.
Absolutely.
And the whole department.
Good.
They really work
Great.
hard to understand the students and their needs and constantly revising and developing the
Great.
programs.
Okay, very good.
Anything else?
I think that's pretty much it. I don't know if there's anyone else that asks
I
questions.
think it's good. I had a couple of questions, but I just want to reiterate, Joe and Karen, I think it's a very well done budget and very thoughtful and doing a good job for the schools and for the taxpayers of West Warwick.
Oh, thank you, Joe.
Thank
And
you.
Joe's done a great job working with the directors and the principals to build the budget. He spends a lot of time working with everybody, and they go over everything in detail and does multiple runs, multiple drafts. And so it's been a very busy few months for Joe and everybody else. So I thank everybody.
To add on to that, what Mr. DiMartino said also, Joe, is just, we had to make a really tough choice last year when we had to lay off some folks, and it didn't sit well with any of us. Probably because we've been spoiled in the years past, where you guys have started working on the budget very early. I know a lot of districts throughout the state, they do that. They do it every year. They lay off all their people, and then they bring them back, one at a time or 10 at a time, however they want. But at the end of the day, it's an uncomfortable feeling for the teachers. It's an uncomfortable feeling for us, for certain. But I think that, I tip my hat to you guys, because I think a lot of what those other districts do is that they start so late in the year that they're not capable of producing an accurate budget, and so therefore that's how they balance it. They use those people's back to do it, and I think that because you guys start soon enough or early enough, that it really makes for a much easier job for us. So thank you.
No, you're welcome. Yeah, and that's true, Joe. A lot of districts, Louis, they just do have a different process and a different method. And a lot of districts do that. They just do a massive layoff, knowing they're going to call people back. But that's a horrible, horrible thing to go through. I remember way back a million years ago when I was teaching, and every spring, you go through this terrible period of anxiety, not knowing if you're going to get laid off, and if you get laid off, if you're going to get, and that's why we try to avoid that as best we can. And last year, the only reason we did it last year was because of the state aid. We didn't know what our number was going to be. But for all those reasons, you make a really good point. We don't want to put people through that unnecessarily.
Yeah, good.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anything else, Karen?
We don't have anything else on the agenda. That was our only job tonight. So
All right. Are there any
So I guess I
people
should
watching
ask, is there anybody out there that wants to speak is that I don't see on my screen? If you are, now would be the time to,
having
All right,
heard
so-
nothing, make a motion to accept the budget?
But we're not voting on the budget, are we, Karen?
Oh, we're not voting on it.
no,
No,
tonight's-
this is just a
tonight's
talk.
a workshop.
That's just a workshop.
I'm
yeah.
sorry. I'm sorry.
Okay.
all right, so then hearing no questions or whatnot, I'd like to make a motion. Someone bring the motion up to adjourn.
Yep, I move that we adjourn.
Joe,
Second.
motion by Joe, second by Sue, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Should we do a
Bye,
formal
guys.
one?
Thank you.
Be safe,
Thanks.
everyone.
See you
Thank
guys.
you. Thank
Thanks,
you.
everybody. Have a good night.
Oh, yeah.
Have a good night.
Thank you, guys.
Yeah.
Bye-bye.
Good night, everybody.
Good night, everybody.
Thank you.